Hello everyone, I'm Ellen from OxLEP and welcome to the third in our series of digital Q&As. Today we are focusing on skills. And without further ado, I'll hand you over to Howard Bentham.
Thanks, Ellen. Hello and welcome. I am Howard Bentham and this is the third in our series of digital Q&As from the Oxfordshire Local Enterprise Partnership. After weeks of lockdown due to the global COVID-19 pandemic, which has changed all our lives in so many ways, the message appears to be changing from the UK government. Albeit with small steps, certain sectors are being encouraged to emerge from our enforced hibernation and venture back to work. Many people have been working from home very successfully during the last 8 weeks or so, which may well remain a key part of our new normal. But what sort of an employment landscape will we be looking at as lockdown slowly eases? At OxLEP, during this unprecedented period, our aim is to provide a platform where Oxfordshire businesses can ask questions and get some expert opinion from members of our invited panels. We'll cover many areas for discussion over the coming weeks with our digital Q&As, and we're very much open to suggestions from you as to where to focus our content. Do feel free to contact us directly. You'll find details on the OxLEP website, as well as our social media channels, and we look forward to hearing from you. For this, our third Q&A, we're going to concentrate on what impact coronavirus has had on Oxfordshire's workforce. We'll look at the initial stages of the COVID lockdown and how it's hit the labour market locally. Also, how many of our major key sectors have stepped up over the past few weeks to respond to the pandemic, and how both managers and employees' skills have had to flex to cope with new scenarios. OxLEP wants local businesses to look on our Q&As as a valuable resource of information. We very much want to support you during this incredibly difficult period. There are a number of really useful links and information sheets on all matters dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. They're on the OxLEP website, and do take time to follow up the information mentioned in this broadcast at oxfordshirelep.com. So let me introduce our panel today. We're delighted to have with us Kate Berman. Kate is the co-founder of Olamalu, a web technology business based in West Oxfordshire. Skills are extremely important at Olamalu, where they offer many opportunities to young people through apprenticeships and work placements. Kate started her career with the global giant GE, working as a finance manager, a quality leader, and an IT implementation manager. She's passionate about creating opportunities for young people and currently volunteers as an enterprise advisor with Burford School. She's previously served as a school governor and a trustee of Quest for Learning, and is on the organising committee for the West Oxfordshire Business Awards, and in addition is a member of the OxLEP Oxfordshire Skills Board. We've got Richard Bayard. Richard is Director of Business Development at OxLEP. He's got over 30 years of experience leading business teams and oversees the OxLEP skills and business teams. He has a strong track record in service delivery, strategic development, and operational management, spanning the public and private sectors, including working previously for Oxfordshire County Council as their service manager for economy and skills. He's an experienced relationship builder at senior level locally, regionally, and nationally to deliver shared ambitions. And aside from this, Richard is the chair of Green Health Reading, which provides support for clients with mental health difficulties through a tailored programme of activities, broadly described as horticultural therapy. We've got Meninda Hare. Meninda is head of delivery at Advisor, a charity inspiring people to make better decisions that help them progress in learning and work. They support people at important times in their lives where key decisions need to be made, aiming to raise aspirations and motivate people to achieve their full potential. Meninda is responsible for the performance of all delivery contracts across Advisor and provides strategic leadership to frontline delivery teams. She also oversees the National Careers Service in Oxfordshire, who've recently introduced the Oxfordshire Redeployment Service to support employers needing to make people redundant or fill urgent vacancies, and matching employees' existing skills with areas of job growth. And finally, Sarah Jaycock. Sarah is Executive Director at High Spec Composites, who are a leading manufacturer of aluminium tooling and high specification carbon fibre components, supplying to a range of industries worldwide, specialising in Formula One and bespoke projects. Based just outside Bicester, Sarah and her husband Matt started the business 10 years ago They're passionate about high quality staff and development and training, and apprenticeships have been fundamental to their growth. Sarah won Young Business Person of the Year at the Oxfordshire Business Awards in 2019. She's a member of the Oxfordshire Apprenticeship Awards Committee, representing small businesses, where High Spec Composites are the 2020 headline sponsor. Sarah is also the Enterprise Advisor for the Bicester School and Bicester Technology Studio, supporting careers education at a strategic level. A very warm welcome to all of our panellists. Now, prior to the onset of COVID-19 and the resulting lockdown, Oxfordshire's economy was making some fabulous headlines. The local economy was worth £23 billion in gross value added per year, and one of just 3 net county contributors to the Exchequer. Around 50,000 new jobs have been created in the county between 2011-12 and 2016-17. And with the UK 5-year survival rate for businesses born in 2011 and still active in 2016 being at just over 44%, Oxfordshire could boast an impressive 49.3%. So let's explore how our labour market is faring mid-pandemic in Oxfordshire. So let's get a view on how the workforces at our panellist organisations have been impacted by the lockdown. Kate, tell us about Olamalu.
So we have transitioned to a 100% remote working team. We know that we're very lucky to be able to do that. At the same time, it has been quite a challenge. We have a team that's extremely technically literate, being an IT company. So the technical side was probably smoother for us than most, but our infrastructure team worked very hard to get everybody set up. But alongside, we've had to rethink all of our processes, the way that we communicate, the way that we work together, and of course, put a really strong emphasis on well-being. It's a difficult time for every single member of the team.
Sarah, what about with you?
We're not in such a great position at the moment. Unfortunately, being in manufacturing, we're having to furlough the majority of our staff. We're using this time at the moment to strengthen the business from within and try and use our machinery for different reasons. So we've looked at using it for PPE and innovative things in that field at the moment.
And Meninda, what about within your organisation?
So we predominantly run information advice and guidance, and we quickly mobilised all of our advisors to be able to offer what we would ordinarily have done face-to-face, the face-to-face service, or by phone technology and web chat service. So we were delivering some of that service anyway under the National Career Service. We run a huge helpline, but as soon as sort of COVID hit, we probably could have done with your expertise, Kate, in terms of IT. So we struggled with that a little bit. But otherwise, I think we surprised ourselves, and our staff were brilliant in that everybody within a week or week and a half were working from home and able to continue a support service for vulnerable adults and young people that needed us the most.
Richard, from your recent experience, which sectors in the region have been hardest hit by the lockdown?
I think it's very, very evident to a lot of people, Howard. If you wander the streets of Oxford this time of year, you'd be expecting tens of thousands of tourists. So certainly the visitor economy has been impacted significantly. And Experience Oxfordshire, our destination management organisation, have done a fantastic piece of research just trying to understand the challenges that the visitor economy faces. And there are some really, really stark numbers in terms of loss of income there, and that's expected to grow with the as lockdown continues. Obviously notwithstanding the easing, but certainly for the hospitality sector, the expectation is that nothing will reopen in any form before July. So that's a real challenge for the sector, and that's one of the if not the hardest hit sector. I think alongside that, retail again significantly challenged, and as we've heard from Sarah, manufacturing. Although as Sarah has done, there have been many manufacturers that are pivoting their business models to look at how they can support the national campaign around PPE, around hand sanitizer, for example. So I think primarily the visitor and the retail sectors are the ones that are most obvious, and then of course manufacturing sits alongside that.
So how does that impact geographically? Is it a fairly even spread across Oxfordshire?
Certainly, if you look at visitor economy and the attraction of Oxfordshire, and as Oxford per se, which attracts a significant amount of both national and international tourists, as we know. But equally, you've got Bicester Village and the attraction there, and Blenheim. So we've got the city centre impact, the impact to the north of the city, and then of course the places that many of us take for granted, the rural villages and the like in the south of the county. So it's probably a concentration in the centre and to the north, but really an impact across the whole of the county and into the Cotswolds, of course.
So let's focus on the labour market specifically. Sarah, how do you feel the labour market has changed since the pandemic began?
That's a good question. Sorry, you've caught me off guard slightly there. I think it's been impacted significantly, obviously. Everyone's just reacting the best they can to the situation. I think there's a lot of unknowns when it comes to how to progress forward. Obviously, we're getting new information each week, so I don't know about others, but I know when we're trying to come up with a plan, it is changing on a daily and weekly basis. Yeah, so it's changed, but a lot of people, as you say, are reacting and trying to remodel their businesses so that they can still operate and create new jobs and use the skills that they've got in other sectors and in other areas. For example, we're predominantly Formula One, which we've all seen on the news has been heavily impacted. So we're looking how we can redeploy those skills elsewhere and into other sectors and try and make use of what we have available to us.
Kate, what changes in the labour market have you noticed?
I think when we talk about taking on new staff and creating new jobs, that's a pretty difficult environment right now. Obviously, the focus up to now in discussions with local small businesses has been how do we look after our current staff, whether they are still working or, to Sarah's point, whether they're furloughed. In an uncertain environment, it's hard for people to look beyond the near future, and to Sarah's other point, we don't know when everything's opening up again, and therefore it's difficult to create new opportunities for people. And we particularly see, I think, the impact for young people. I'm sure that's a point that we will discuss later.
Very much so. I mean, Melinda, explain more about what the Oxfordshire Redeployment Service does and how crucial this could actually be in the coming months for Oxfordshire.
Yeah, Howard, so that was exactly the reasons that Sarah and Kate have just mentioned. It was a responsive sort of reaction from the council, the LEP and the National Career Service that we needed to do something quite fast in providing a platform for employers as well as staff and people who were finding themselves in new situations that they never ever thought they would find themselves in, either being furloughed or redundant, or potentially employers having to make big redundancies, whereas other firms or industries needing desperately staff very quickly to be mobilised into places of work. So the idea is that this service is a platform where people can come to find out, okay, what do you need in terms of demand, and where are the people that are actually, we've got a supply of people that are looking for work. So, and also a platform where people need to just find out more what is going on. So that is exactly what the service is about, is joining up the support services that are always here in the infrastructure and providing a service for those that are outside to say, what do I do? Please help. I need people, or I need a job, and actually trying to join the two up.
Because obviously there's been, what, sort of 7-8 weeks of this now. I mean, what have you learnt from local employers, and how has that changed over those weeks?
I think it's very much still people are finding their feet. And I think probably the biggest thing that we're finding is that it's very short term. So what people are needing right at the moment is, it might be what they're needing this week, but it might be something very different next week. And it's not such that we're getting long-term kind of, I need to employ X or Y for a long term. It's actually, I need them now. So I think it's almost very much almost crisis type management is what people are looking for. But also I think what they've really appreciated is there's somewhere to go to find out a bit more information, advice about what do I do, you know, can I furlough, can I do this? Not that we give that kind of advice, but actually we can provide and broker services. So but employers are coming to us, that local employers in particular. So once they've heard about the service, and so for example, we've got a call tomorrow with a local care home who are looking for about 10 to 12 staff immediately. So there may be something like that we can then put out on social media to our clients that are looking for work and get a very local message out.
Kate, if you could just pick up on that, I mean, what issues are employers currently facing specifically regarding skills?
So I think there's been a lot of discussion about in the business world about technical skills. I think that is even more of a crunch at the moment, with people needing more than ever to rely on IT skills. To Miranda's point about other sectors that need more staff, she would have more information on that than me. But this, to me, it's almost like that our weaknesses, or our skills weaknesses, have just been exacerbated by the current crisis. They're not new skill shortages, it's just they've become much more obvious.
Richard, which sectors have you seen? We've talked about the ones that are really struggling, but where there's an increase in demand and therefore an increase in demand for workforce, undoubtedly there will be some winners in this scenario. Not many, but there will be some. What have you seen?
So I think the key sectors that are crying out for staff, Melinda's already highlighted one, health and social care. Is absolutely obvious, and we see that, don't we, in the daily news briefings, and they're doing a fantastic job, and the fact that the crisis, the pandemic, has shone a light on them as a sector is fantastic. But before that, it was a sector that was struggling to recruit. And it has historically struggled to recruit, but nevertheless there are some good news stories coming out and opportunities for people to move into that sector. The other one is logistics. We're moving into much greater usage of online shopping and deliveries, so therefore there's been significant growth in the logistics sector. And of course we're moving into the seasonal food worker area, and I think there was 70,000, 80,000 national shortage projected of produce pickers, and so that's the third. The other one that the early signs of data starting to show for us is IT remote workers. Are picking up on Kate's point around some of the existing challenges that have just been exacerbated by the current situation. I would expect, and again, just thinking about the relocation, redeployment offer. If you think about some of the skills available in the visitor economy, we mentioned as one that's been impacted, customer service, front of house, catering, housekeeping, etc. Those are skills that are required in the health and social care sector. So there is that natural bridge between those sectors. So they're probably the four main areas that we're starting to see have got increasing demand for staff.
And you've nicely helped us throw ahead to next week's Q&A, which concentrates on the rural economy and indeed the picking work that is very much in demand at the moment. Melinda, Richard raises a couple of really interesting points there. How can the valuable skills then that are already in the workforce, there are some very, very able workers, be redeployed? It's making those links, isn't it? Making those people make a connection. That's really what your organisation is absolutely key in.
Absolutely, and that's what our advisors are brilliant at doing. So if we can actually have these people talk to our advisors or talk to us and actually find out a bit more about the service, we can actually help those people to identify what skills they do have that they never think they do have. If you see what I mean, if you've only ever done one job or two jobs, you never know what actually you can do, whereas we can actually help to unpack that maze for them and actually say you could do this, this and this. You know, there's skills toolkits on the National Career Service website. There are lots of online learning now that they can do very, very quickly if they needed to get something on their CVs to say, actually, yeah, I'm up to date now, I've got this and I've got this, and they can mobilise very quickly. But I think people do need, you know, it is hard to kind of figure your way out of this, if you like, and that's where our professional advisors can really help. And that's where we've got them on the phones right now and on web chat on the National Career Service. They can phone them in and we can help them kind of work their way through that and get them to a positive destination. I mean, I don't know where the whole furlough thing is going, but that would be ideal, wouldn't it, is if they could temporarily help in other sectors of work where they desperately need them right now, and then go back to employment career paths that they were following genuinely as and when those things start to pick up again. So
that's right,
that would be ideal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can be furloughed from your job of employment and work for somebody else. That's
exactly. Yeah, and people are doing that. They are volunteering and doing other things just to keep, you know, that we've talked about well-being, keep their resilience alive, keep themselves busy. That is just, it's proactive. It's brilliant. If you're in a position where you can do that, that's great.
Let's look at the strategic approach, Richard. What is OxLEP's strategic approach to addressing skills needs in the county?
So for many years, and Kate's been part of the skills board for the last couple, we've had an employer-led skills board. That's part of our subgroup infrastructure, and they're charged really with developing the strategic skills required for Oxfordshire's businesses, both current but also projected. And in your introduction, Howard, you laid that wonderful foundation of a highly successful economy, an economy that to all intents and purposes has been operating at full employment for many years. And that itself brought numerous challenges in terms of the ability to be able to recruit staff because the labour market was so tight. We are working within that context with DFE through a process, a national process that they brought in a couple of years ago around skills advisory panels. So effectively, our skills board is now part of the DFE skills advisory panel family. They help and support DFE and ourselves in terms of identifying the skills requirements, both current and projected. We are developing as part of that process what we're calling a local skills plan over the course of this year, setting out some of the key challenges, some of the key opportunities. Now, of course, we were doing this anyway, and then along came COVID. So we are, of course, having to look at everything and reassess everything through the COVID lens. And as part of that process, we're doing some we're doing some labour market intelligence, and we started collating. The challenge, of course, with LMI and labour market data is the lag, and it is significantly lagged in some cases by a quarter. So it will take a while for it to filter through. But what we're doing alongside that is trying to get some really robust, good quality evidence that will underpin an economic recovery plan, and that will help shape the immediate thinking in terms of how we can help companies and our economy move from response into recovery phase and then into renewal. I think we would, as many LEPs and certainly I'm sure colleagues on this call, it's given us cause for reflection, isn't it? Whether it be home working, whether it be the commute, whether it be adaptability and flexibility within our workforces and the well-being. And again, I think moving forward, we'll need to reflect all those qualities as we develop the economic recovery plan and the local skills plan. I think to close that, our labour market will change. We're unsure yet as to in terms of the numbers behind that, but we are doing some scenario planning in terms of JSA claimant count, job seekers allowance claimant count, and just looking at various projections, various numbers within that context. Interestingly, I was doing some research the other day At the peak of the last recession, so the financial crisis recession, unemployment in Oxfordshire rose to a peak of 2.6%, which was about just over 7,000 individuals. Now, appreciate that the way government measure unemployment has changed now, but our current unemployment rate is 1.6%. So that's forming the basis for our scenario planning, just so we can start to get an idea and then apply that in terms of some of the sectors we've spoken about. So there's lots of work going on to develop the economic recovery plan and the long-term planning.
Sarah, let's look at your business and how has COVID-19 impacted on the skills that your business needs and will need in the future. What conversations you've been having around this?
The skills day to day won't change that much, but it's more the understanding of health and safety and that side of things that we really need to focus on and make sure that when people are coming into a business that they understand and respect, especially with the younger employees. Skills themselves, we're very focused in a particular area, so we can't really deploy them much further afield. But yeah, like I said, it's mostly the health and safety kind of skills that we're going to be needing.
So does that mean there'll be a change in your workforce?
Yeah, absolutely. We're already looking at the moment at how we can provide sufficient training to our members of staff before they come back into the workplace. Things are going to change dramatically. Where we work very closely together. You'll have numerous technicians on one job. We're not sure if that's going to be a possibility in the near future. So we need to advise people in advance and find ways of working around it. And like I say, provide that training before people come back in the door.
Yeah, will that mean sort of different shift patterns? Because
definitely, we're looking at all sorts of things. So we're looking at expanding the working hours. So rather than a Monday, Friday, doing a Monday to Sunday, that will also help with childcare responsibilities and things like that. Doing shift patterns so there's fewer people in the building at any time, increased cleaning procedures, and it will also be the responsibility each individual has as well. Whereas before we could put, for example, cleaning responsibilities to one person, everybody's going to be responsible. So that's all going to change.
Yeah, even down to where you sit and have a cup of tea. That's
absolutely. Unfortunately, that's things. Yeah, we had to put these things in place as soon as the pandemic started. So it's things like canteens have been closed. People have been asked to have their work breaks within their cars and away from others. It's quite difficult because we're finding new ways to socialise and keep a team spirit as well. So we've got all sorts of social media groups happening where we can still communicate, still have some friendly conversations and banter, but not actually encroach within the 2-metre working space.
Yeah, if there's any more quizzes going, I'm sure everybody seems to be invited to quiz groups at the moment. Yeah. But yeah, it sounds like exactly happening at your place. Melinda, what would you advise people in search of new jobs in the current climate to do? Because I know you've had some pretty neat ideas around this. Virtual job fairs for one.
Yeah, so that was a national initiative from the National Career Service where they've done they've come up with this idea of a virtual jobs fair. What it actually means is that certain slots we can give to regions, and you pile in on via social media all your vacancies, and sort of at the same time put out a lot of communication to those people that are looking for work, that go online at this time, and you will or sign on to this Twitter and this Facebook, and then you will get all of the live vacancies as they come through. So it's literally matching people up there and then to give them advice of who is looking for what. So a really, really good initiative. What we found though, it was a one day, it was almost like a trial period. What we want to now do, because that was a national offer, is we want to make it bespoke and make it quite regional. So I'm working with colleagues in Richard's team to do a very local offer now for Oxfordshire, so that we actually make some space for Oxfordshire employers and for Oxfordshire residents, and we'll do that across the areas now, because I think that will probably be a bit more meaningful and also give more time, and we need to do it more frequently. So maybe we're talking every 2 or 3 weeks we do that kind of effort, and that way word will get out as well, so that people know that that's a service that is available, so they can get online. So again, it's just kind of trying to make it easy for people so they know where to go, because at the moment, job centres, DWP are inundated with claims and other priorities that they've got to deal with. Where we can help is actually working one-to-one with individuals and one-to-one with employers.
That's brilliant. Kate, I know you and your business are massive supporters of apprenticeship schemes. How have your apprentices and training providers coped with the situation?
Well, again, I have to say we've been very lucky because both of our two apprentices are doing degree apprenticeships with the Open University. They are obviously the experts at remote learning, and so I feel very fortunate that they have been able to continue with their apprenticeship, with no change really, apart from meeting a tutor on an online meet, apart from face to face. So we've been very lucky there. I know that for a lot of training providers, this has been a real challenge. Like everybody else, they've been scrambling around trying to see how they can provide apprenticeship training remote. So I think going forward, that continues to be a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, working from home comes with its own issues as well, Kate, doesn't it?
Oh, well, it does. I think it's been quite interesting as we've researched best practices for remote working. And one of the things that always comes up is have a dedicated working space. And I can see some smiles on the call here because, of course, for those of us who've got children or indeed for our young employees who've got families suddenly all working from home, a dedicated workspace is not that easy to set up, and so we're finding everybody is having to be very flexible, very adaptable, and it brings some benefits. I think we're all being much more understanding of the environments that people are working in, and much more understanding, as a mother I say this, that we do have family responsibilities as well, or for young people that we have to understand it's quite a difficult environment for a young person, especially if your desk is in a corner of your bedroom. And that's the space that you're spending all day, every day in. So we learn every day.
Yeah, but maybe, as we've said and touched on already, there might well be some positives from this in terms of childcare and just that sort of family time. This might be something
and flexible working and maybe better ways for us to communicate. Yeah.
Sarah, will apprenticeships be able to continue if there are potentially fewer workplaces able to host them? Obviously, you're in manufacturing, and you've already touched on the fact that you do physically need to be quite close to someone to show them what to do.
I think they're definitely going to be impacted. I wish they weren't, but I think that they are. We're already talking about our return to work plan, and apprentices have been a big discussion because they do need support and they do need somebody nearby to be checking their work and guiding them, especially when you're manufacturing and using your hands. You need that extra pair of eyes. So it is going to be very difficult to get them back into the workplace quickly. And I think moving forward, people are going to have to really decide whether they've got the skills and manpower to be able to train on site at the moment. That being said, there's a lot of additional things you can do. For example, there's more resources available online. We're making sure that our apprentices are still learning from home. They're quite early on into their apprenticeships. But like I say, there's additional courses. There's a lot more they can learn about the business, the sector from home. So when they do come back, they're further advanced in other areas.
Melinda, will young people look to take, should we say, the safe option of going into full-time education rather than vocational training such as an apprenticeship?
I think there's a high risk of that. I think at the moment it's a complete unknown, but I think it is becoming more and more evident that at the moment it is quite hard to find apprenticeships, and that a lot of employers may have just put the brakes on those apprenticeship starts that they may ordinarily have been taking on, or they've just, they've frozen them for now. So those young people that are in year 11 or year 13 that were actually thinking of their next steps are probably, in a bit of a quandary at the moment as to what to do, and the safer option might be to actually continue in education. At least that way you are still getting qualifications rather than facing that what you might think is unemployment, which is not ideal for it's not ideal for anyone, but for a young person to start their career journey that way, it is not great. So in that sense, actually continuing in education and having other options is probably, as a parent, that I can see that might be a way to go. And again, I think it's a spot that we as people in this space have to lobby for, that we mustn't forget those young people and what are we going to do, and that actually they are our future, they are our apprentices for the future, and what are we going to do for that skills gaps, because we will have skills gaps. It is about which I think Richard mentioned earlier, the gaps were already there. They're just been accelerated, if you like, with COVID. And so we have to now, as people in this space, we've got to really lobby and make sure that we're planning ahead as much as possible.
Richard, I mean, conversely, to Meninda's point there, I mean, will we see fewer actually deciding to go to university if should we call them the perks of student life and social interaction are not there? It might not be quite such an enticing prospect. As much as it is to look at your smiling faces on the screen, it's not quite what I signed up for as an undergraduate.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's another part of the labour market, another part of the skills landscape that will see fundamental change. And as you mentioned, Howard, the whole experience of university is something young people buy into. Look, I think it's early days, but the opportunity is there. Universities, in some way, shape, or form, and a fantastic example there from Kate of Open University and the learning there. But equally, if we think about the education sector in Oxford, particularly, you know, it's one of our biggest employment sectors. So how might a reshaped university offer impact on that? That's something we need to consider. But equally, the knock-on effects, for all the reasons you articulated, Howard, of a thriving university town, which of course supports a vibrant nightlife, pubs, clubs, and restaurants, etc. So there are many factors to consider. I think the key thing is, as we come out the other side of this, Oxfordshire has still got everything that was there before will still be in focus. Fantastic opportunity to grow, to learn, fantastic sectors, and we did a really enlightening and empowering transformative technologies tour in February. Took a bunch of young people, year 10, year 11 young people, through to some of Oxfordshire's world-leading science businesses, and just opened their eyes of some of the fantastic career opportunities that are available. They'll still be there. Oxfordshire will still be driving UK economy in the way you described in the introduction, Howard, potentially even more so. And we've got to make sure that we communicate those opportunities to young people, to their parents and peer groups, so that there is a range of opportunity, whether it's university, whether it's apprenticeships, whether it's full-time education, or actually straight into employment. And I think because we've got such a well-balanced economy, we have got that breadth of offer and opportunity. Now I know it's incredibly difficult at the moment, but we do need to ensure we continue to think about the future.
Just thinking about these sort of unforeseen consequences, Kate, is there a danger that businesses will actually end up prioritising giving jobs to older people rather than employing young people as apprentices?
I think it's really hard actually to comment on that at the moment. It'll be interesting to see where things go. I mean, Sarah made the point about the amount of time that it takes to bring a young person on board and get them up to speed. At the same time, we know how much of an opportunity there is in taking on a talented young person. I hope that for young people, it will be a delay in opportunities, not a drop in opportunities. At the moment, people seem to be putting the brake on bringing somebody on board, partly because there's so many other things that you have to think about at the moment. But I don't think long term there will be less of an appetite to hire young people. We might just have to be a little bit patient and wait for those opportunities to come back.
Meninda, tell us about some of the conversations you've had with the young people that you advise.
I think it's exactly that. I think at the moment, predominantly, it's those students that would have been taking exams very shortly, and who haven't been able to take exams. I think a lot of them are worried about what exam results they're going to be given. And I think that's the way they see it at the moment, is that they're given as opposed to earned in their exams. So a lot of our queries are around, well, what options do I have in terms of college, university, jobs, training, and how may I be able to challenge my grades if I'm not happy with them, those kind of things. on the opposite side of that is actually, how do I get into universities? How do I get into colleges? Are they still enrolling? And actually everybody is. They are, you know, a lot of the organisations, as colleagues have just said, are continuing. They are trying to continue, just might need a bit more patience. So, you know, a lot of the colleges are doing virtual online tours, and you can kind of like view universities and colleges in that way. And so we're kind of, again, joining up the dots and asking young people where, you know, what are they interested in, where are they thinking of going, and asking them to talk to the places that they're thinking of entering. So but I'd say overriding all of that at the moment is the uncertainties. That's what young people and their parents, carers are worried about, is just the uncertainty of what's going to happen over the next few months.
Yeah.
Where normally they would have had offers and firm places and that kind of thing.
Sarah, how can schools and employers keep their connections going? These are usually made through enterprise advisors. You're one. When schools are not open currently.
Well, that's where the virtual side of things come into it, I think. I know that, for example, with myself, the enterprise advisors and the careers leads are still in very good contact, and with the LEP as well. We're discussing ways of moving forward, so a lot of the students can still have interactions with employers, and meaningful interactions at that. We're discussing ways that we can move forward and almost have work experience virtually. So whether it's like a tour of the facility, having one-on-one question and answer sessions or group answer sessions. There's lots of ways there can still be really meaningful engagements. Another thing we're discussing at the moment is interview practice. That's something that we arrange through our school normally with employers, but we're talking about using an online platform to do that, which I think is especially relevant now that a lot of interviews are becoming virtual. So it will give them real life experience. I think if anybody's interested in doing it, it is just making contact with the school or the careers leads and putting your name forward, because there's benefits to be had on both sides.
Kate, what's your thoughts on that? Can meaningful work experience still happen, albeit virtually?
Well, to Sarah's point, this is something that's being actively discussed by enterprise advisors and careers leads and the OxLEP skills team. We are looking in West Oxfordshire at how we could do a virtual work experience week. So it will not be possible to bring young people on site, but how could you kind of replicate that experience remote? I think there's a lot of thinking and discussing still to be done. You have the whole safeguarding discussion from the school's point of view. You have the age-old timetabling, etc. But I think it's something that is clear we might have to think about, not just now, but potentially going into next year. So we're all going to have to be creative and look for those opportunities, because those young people still need the same kind of level of careers, advice and interaction and meaningful encounters as they always have done. So hopefully we will, in various bits of Oxfordshire, be able to try some things out.
Richard, and that creativity and thinking around the problem here, how does OxLEP plan to ensure that local people are equipped with the skills that businesses need now and indeed for the recovery?
So we've got various programs that help and support. Kate and Sarah are part of our enterprise advisor network, which picks up and supports young people and schools, and really to forge meaningful relationships between education providers and employers. We also have a work experience service now. Primarily its audience is year 10, year 11. Of course, that's a real challenge, as we've just started to unpick there. But I think as both Sarah and Kate have said, we must make sure we offer those opportunities for people who are young people who are affected currently in some way, shape or form. And being creative is fantastic. We've got a couple of ESF European funded programs that are there to support people who are in need of reskilling. So it could be those that are transitioning between sectors, as we spoke about previously, but also those who are at risk of redundancy. And yesterday's extension of furlough will be welcome, but I think we do need to mobilise resources collectively to try and gain early intelligence of major redundancies that are going to happen, and then work with Melinda, an advisor, and DWP and the whole stakeholder group really to try and reskill, retrain those people. We've got a program that currently does that, and we've got the LEP-led Skills for Business program, which again can help and support employers through these difficult times, looking at both training needs analysis, because as Sarah said, they're looking at different business models, different business approaches moving forward that might require different skill sets. So therefore there's opportunity to reskill and support those both within the workforce, but also those who are at risk of leaving it. So there's a whole range of offers. They're all brought together under the Skills for Business program. Get in touch, and we can help and support employers, and work as that broker across what can be a plethora of support services. So we are very happy for businesses to get in touch with us.
Let's get some closing thoughts from each of you in turn, if we can. How do you see things in, say, 3, 6 and 12 months time from where we are now, Kate?
So 3 months time, which is the interesting immediate one, I think it's not looking that different from the way it is today for us. I think if you look at what the government said on Sunday, they're not big changes expected in terms of opening things up. So 3 months, we're very much looking at the same kind of scenario as today. 6 months is a really interesting one, and that will be the crunch time if it's the end of furlough, and then we'll really start to see what the local economy is like. And I'm very hopeful that in 12 months time we will be back to normal.
That's a big hope, and let's hope so. Sarah, give us your timeline. How do you see it playing out?
I don't see there being much change in the next 3 to 6 months, if I'm completely honest. It'll be a very slow, staggered re-entry into the workplace. At 12 months, I think there'll be a new normal, but I hope to be, as I say, in a position where we're all working again and familiar with what we're doing.
Melinda?
Yeah, I think similarly, 3 months is we just need more patience. So I think the next 3 to 6 months is more patience, more innovative thinking and solutions, and trying to come up with things. I think also some learning. We were just talking about the work experience offer. I mean, I think there's some great learning there where we've struggled previously for young people, particularly those with disabilities, SEND, that actually can we actually use those kind of lessons to move forward. So in 12 months time, we might have actually movement to almost kind of get back to normal, but it won't be a normal, it'll be a different kind of normal. But hopefully also that we'll have learned so much and that we can actually do some more creative stuff, because we know we can do it. And so actually employers will see a shift, and young people and adults will see a shift in their own thinking and career pathways, and where can I go and where can I take it? Because actually I think we've probably all surprised ourselves how much we can do when we really have to do it.
Interesting. Yeah, Richard, your thoughts to finish it off.
Thanks, Howard. So I think we're moving from response phase into recovery phase, whatever that looks like. And clearly government are with the extension of furlough have sort of set out their thinking around that in terms of timescale. Couple of colleagues mentioned new norm. Let's call it renew. So we're moving from a response into recovery into a renewed economy, whatever that looks like. But for me, it's probably something that's built on learning from this experience. I think collaboration. I think we should all get much better at collaborating, at sharing, and equally underpin whatever a renewed new norm looks like, underpinned by creativity. As Melinda said, we have been creative because we've had to, but actually let's take that mindset of creativity, adaptability and flexibility into whatever the new economy looks like. But I go back to close to previous comment. Oxfordshire is really well positioned to move out of this crisis period and to grow and to have a really strong foundation for all of our workforce, whether it's young people, apprentices, or of course those who are transitioning between careers and between jobs. So we're in a good place. It's tougher. It's particularly tough at the moment, but I'm extremely confident that we'll come out of this at the other end.
Well, that's it for this OxLEP Digital Q&A. And thanks once again to our brilliant panel, Kate Berman, Richard Bayard, Meninda Hare and Sarah Jaycock. As I mentioned at the outset, we really want to hear from you about topics to discuss in coming weeks and put questions on your behalf to our invited panelists. So do please get in touch via our social media channels. And don't forget the fabulous resource on the OxLEP website relating to all of the matters discussed today, including the Oxfordshire Redeployment Service and Oxfordshire Skills for Business. Please go on to oxfordshirelep.com to find out more. Our next OxLEP Digital Q&A will be on the topic of the rural economy. So follow us on social media for details and to post a question for the debate. But for now, from me, Howard Bentham, thanks for watching and stay safe.